Minister of Public Utilities Marvin Gonzales joins us this morning to clear the air on some things that have been brought to the public domain, mainly the proposed increased rates by the RIC and the ministry's handling of the water rose during the floods. Minister, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
I am fine. I feel as though I'm lacking a little bit of sleep, but I'm fine.
Nice to have you here.
It's always a pleasure to be in the Now Morning Show.
Of course. Now, Minister, I'm going to jump right in because I know that people have been seeing the conversation on the opposition and in terms of what's been happening. As it relates to the rates in particular, I know that Mr. Padarath would have mentioned that something was included in that business draft, that 2022 to 27 business draft that T&TEC presented to RIC. What exactly was in that business plan?
Well, first to begin, it is not prudent, and it will not be prudent for the Minister of Public Utilities or the government of Trinidad and Tobago to be commenting on what T&TEC would have included in their business draft or their business plan to the RIC with respect to a rate increase or rate review in Trinidad and Tobago. The law is very, very clear with respect to rate increases in Trinidad and Tobago, especially for water and electricity. The government has absolutely no role. There is an independent commission, as is normal in any democratic society, an independent commission as the Regulated Industries Commission, and that is the sole body that has the statutory responsibility in law to set the rates for water and electricity. The process is that the utility company, in this case T&TEC, will prepare a business plan, and in that business plan they're going to propose some increase or revised rates, if you will, to the RIC, in addition to other things in terms of how it is going to mitigate against its cost expenses, reducing operational costs, increasing its revenue, it undertaking its routine maintenance, improve the levels of service. All of these things will be contained in a business plan. The RIC, in turn, will look at it. The RIC will conduct its own assessment. The RIC will liaise with its local, international, regional partners in terms of the setting of appropriate rates for water and electricity. And in turn, the RIC will come up with its own proposal with respect to rates increase for electricity. That's the first or the second stage. The third stage is that the RIC will now engage in public consultation on its proposed rates for electricity in Trinidad and Tobago. So T&TEC makes the proposal. RIC doesn't have to agree. The RIC may well disagree, especially taking everything into consideration, especially the customers. So the RIC will liaise and they will have robust public consultations, and the public remarks and the public's contribution will now go into the RIC's consideration before it makes its final determination. Upon its final determination, the RIC then recommends to the government of Trinidad and Tobago through the Ministry of Public Utilities as to the revised rates for electricity. The government, upon examining the recommendations of the RIC, the government will then determine what kind of subsidy structure that we are prepared to put in place, as the government is on record in saying that in the event of a rate increase in water and electricity, we will introduce a utility card system to target the vulnerable citizens in the country so that we can create a buffer to protect them from any proposed rates increase for water and electricity. So we are very far from that. The RIC has advised me.
I was just about to ask as well, because I think one of the things the public want to know is how soon will this rate increase or rate adjustment take place?
The RIC has indicated to me that they will be commencing their public engagement in the month of December. Okay. Right? We expect that consultation to take place over a 2 to 3 months period.
So has it started already, Minister? Because we are in December.
No, it hasn't started as yet.
Not yet.
But before the end of December, I expect the RIC to begin this public consultation. While all of these things are happening, as government, as minister, we have to stay far away from that. We have to allow the law to take its course, allow the process to be unfolded, and then at the appropriate time, the government of Trinidad and Tobago, upon receiving the recommendations of the RIC, will come to the country and say, okay, this is what we've received from the RIC, and this is how we are going to protect the most vulnerable citizens in the country.
But Minister, as it stands, is there a proposed rate that T&TEC would have presented to the RIC?
Yes, so in any business plan, T&TEC or WASA, they will put forward their understanding or their proposal with respect to rate increase across the board for their various categories of customers. So that is a fact. But as T&TEC by law or WASA by law, they do not have the authority to set their rates. T&TEC board or its management cannot get up in the morning and increase the rates for electricity. It just does not happen. They have to justify that to the independent regulated industries commission, and they have to await the outcome of the regulated industries commission's work with respect to the setting of the rates for the various categories of customers. So the public engagement is about to start. We will await the outcome of that. The RIC will return to the government with its proposal for rates increase, and then the government, having examined the proposals of the RIC, will make policy decisions with respect to how do we protect the most vulnerable citizens in the country. Now, I'll tell you this. As it is right now, almost every customer, commercial, industrial, domestic, we all enjoy large subsidies for electricity, not only at the end product, but even at the price of gas. Currently, the price of gas is about $7 or $8 per MMBTU. If NGC sells their gas, every molecule of gas to their downstream and their petrochem industries, they get $7 per MMBTU. That gas is sold to NGC and T&TEC for $1.63. So there's a massive loss in selling gas to T&TEC for power generation at a massive loss to the tune of over $1 billion per year. When it comes down to the residential customers, you then have 220,000 customers benefiting from a rate review. If your bill is $300 and below, you enjoy a further 30% reduction in your electricity bill via that rate review. So it's massive, how do I say it? Subsidies with respect to the price of electricity, and we are at a stage now where the government is saying it is better you have a subsidy structure targeted to those customers or those citizens that are most in need of a subsidy. For example, Marvin Gonzales.
Quickly though,
Sure.
I have a figure here. So I'm seeing that the proposed rates between 40 to 65.75% in the price of electricity over a 5-year period for residential customers, an increase of 128.5% for commercial and industrial customers, an increase of 134% for street lighting and recreational grounds. Is there any merit to that, in terms of the rate or the percentage of increases that customers can see whenever that increase takes place?
That is what was contained in the T&TEC's business plan. That is preliminary information.
Okay.
So I don't know what the RIC is going to decide. I don't know if the RIC, I'm sure the RIC would have already made its determination on T&TEC's proposal as contained in that particular report in the Express, but that is just preliminary. That information was submitted to the RIC since last year, November. The RIC would have done a lot of work since then, and they have reached at their draft determination, and that is the reason why they're about to engage the population. I would only comment when the RIC is finished with its work.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's
now, you would have
to
mentioned that NGC and T&TEC relationship. That was also brought into question. What's the relationship between those organizations?
Oh, it's very good. You know, there were times where NGC was of the view that the gas consumption on T&TEC's part for power generation was a bit over the limit, and that is as a result of T&TEC's decision to increase its spinning reserves, especially coming out of the February 16th national blackout. A number of the independent power producers, TGU for example, a number of their machines were not operational, and T&TEC had to take some measures to ensure that we do not have large-scale disruptions taking place on its distribution network. And as a result of that, they had to increase their spinning reserves to about 200 megawatts on a daily basis. And that means that T&TEC would have to, they require additional gas from the NGC. And the NGC is saying, okay, we are selling this gas to the independent power producers at $1.68 US cents. And you are actually consuming so much gas that it is now impacting our financials in a negative way, because this is gas we can now utilize to sell to our downstream and our petchem industries, where we will get large returns for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But what T&TEC did in return is to reduce its spinning reserves, and that was the reason why we had a number of outages taking place around the country over the last 2 to 3 months, because T&TEC would have reduced its spinning reserves. And we worked with the independent power producers. You have to remember, T&TEC does not produce electricity in Trinidad and Tobago. So we have to work with our independent power producers, TGU, to ensure that their machines are operational, they are efficient, so that we can reduce the need to get that extra volume of gas for spinning reserves to reduce the possibility of disruptions.
Now, Minister, I also want to touch on this SALCOT, but one more question on T&TEC. There was also the conversation that the state is owing T&TEC a lot of money, and so that the state is indebted to T&TEC. How do you respond to that?
And that is absolutely true. It is a problem that we've always had. The utility companies, T&TEC, TSTT, WASA, the state sector continues to owe these utility companies large sums of money. That is a fact. I think with respect to T&TEC, it's somewhere in the region of $800 million. But over the last 2 years, we've been through some really difficult times as a country. I can tell you that. But the positive news on that front is that over the last 2 quarters, because of the improved financial circumstances in Trinidad and Tobago, we have seen a bigger improvement and a bigger effort on the parts of ministries and government agencies to settle outstanding arrears. When you're talking about the state owing, you're talking about ministries, you're talking about government departments and what have you, HDC, all of them. So we are seeing a greater effort on their part to settle the outstanding arrears, and I'm already seeing positive signs from T&TEC's financials. And I'm hoping, as our financial circumstances continue to improve over the next quarter and 2 quarters, we will continue to see an improvement and a greater effort on the part of the state sector to settle outstanding arrears to our utility companies.
All right. Now, Minister, I'm switching gears to the SALCOT quickly. I saw that you issued a press release. A lot of people were questioning, one, the planned shutdown of the SALCOT, which, of course, you tried to stop, but it had to go on.
Yes.
And then, two, the WASA's handling of those, especially in the rural communities, who were not able to access water because of the flooding situation.
Yes.
I want to hear your thoughts on that.
So, unfortunately, the SALCOT went ahead with their planned shutdown, even though we were battling, the incidents of flooding, especially in Central, East, and South Trinidad. I asked the SALCOT, even though it was a planned shutdown, I asked the SALCOT that we are faced with difficult circumstances at that point in time with flooding, and our citizens, especially in Central and South Trinidad, will need that water to engage in their cleanup operations. So to reschedule their planned shutdown to about 2 weeks in order to allow citizens. Now, they placed it in a very difficult spot, because 2 weeks from now, you'll into Christmas. So citizens now will be expecting their water to prepare for Christmas and what have you. But unfortunately, they went ahead with the shutdown. And what WASA had to do was to redivert water from different areas. Like, for example, 5 million gallons of water that would normally come to Mova and Port of Spain and Cocorite and some parts of the East-West Corridor had to be rediverted to Central and South Trinidad to assist in the cleanup operation. So wide-scale communities in North Trinidad experienced a disruption in their water supply because water had to be redistributed to communities to assist in their cleanup operation. In the East Trinidad, some of those rural communities, as you know, their water supplies are from surface water sources. And those surface water plants all were disrupted as a result of turbid water conditions, the rivers coming out dirty, silt going into the pumps, and all of these challenges that WASA experienced during this period of time. What we did, we ramped up our water trucking activities, and we rediverted water from neighboring communities. So WASA did its best in these circumstances, and in addition to that, large transmission lines in Quora, in Komuto, in Aripo, were disrupted as a result of landslides taking place. So WASA crews had to journey late hours in the night over the weekend, working around the clock to repair those lines. And within a week or so, we were able to bring some stability to the grid and to have the water supply restored to several communities. But it takes time. It takes time for that water and that entire distribution and transmission system to be charged up so that communities on the extremities, like in Manzanilla, North Manzanilla, and Komuto, they would normally take a longer period of time. Even in my constituency of Five Rivers, last night I received a number of complaints. The extremities of Five Rivers, they still were not getting their water supply.
There are a lot of people who are still complaining.
Yes, when you have that kind of disruption from the weather condition with all your surface water plants going out of operation, and in addition to that, a shutdown by Desalcott, you understand, that Desalcott produces 40 million gallons of water per day. So that is 40 million gallons of water you did not have, and that we had to take from operational sources to redistribute. So it was very, very difficult for WASA. And what was sad to me, when I made a public call for Desalcott to reschedule their shutdown, no one, especially in the opposition, supported me. They said not a word. But some MP, they call Barry Padarat, will come on television or issue some media release calling upon me to send hundreds of water trucks in central Trinidad. But I mean, he's just a raving hypocrite.
And on a lighter note, Minister, before we close, I know that we also have your Lopino. It has been rescheduled for this weekend. Let's go back up a little bit. So tell me about that.
Oh, yes. So we have, unfortunately, we had to cancel our parang activities because of the weather conditions. So it's not only WASA plants and it's not all of the surface and Desalcott and what have you. We had to cancel this parang activity on the last occasion because of the weather condition, the orange yellow alert. And it was rescheduled to the 6th, and we are getting a number of interest. A lot of people have been calling, and people are just looking forward to coming up to Lopino and experience Lopino traditional Christmas. And it starts at 3 p.m. At the Lopino Recreation Grounds, and we go until 10 p.m. So I look forward, and I invite Trinidad and Tobago to come to Lopino and experience some Lopino traditional Christmas, Lopino love. So
absolutely free.
Absolutely free.
Nice. So, Minister Gonzales, as always, thank you for coming in and sharing about, because I think people wanted to clear the air in terms of that whole Desalcott shutdown, the rate review and that sort of thing. So thanks for coming in and clearing the air. I see you in the Christmas spirit as well.
Yes.
With your socks.
Yes.
My director pointed it out to me. She has a very, very keen eye. But as always, Minister, a pleasure. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And that was the Minister of Public Utilities, Mr. Marvin Gonzales, just shedding some light on what has been discussed in the public domain thus far. We're going to take a break. I'll be right back. Stay with us.